Hello, I just have a few headlines in the news this morning that I think is very significant that I would like to go over. I've been battling a cold, so I'll try to get through this okay. Let's get started. I wanted to start off with this article because I think it's kind of significant. It's called The Imperial Presidency, and as you can see, it's from the Washington Free Beacon. Members of Congress and constitutional law experts testified before the House Judiciary Committee on Wednesday, warning that the legislative branch is in danger of ceding its power in the face of an imperial presidency. We've all known this was coming, and he has. He stood before the nation and said, I'll do what I have to do with or without Congress. And each picture that I see of him, like this one here, you can see his arrogancy and his defiance in the face of the American people. Things happened yesterday, too, that was very disturbing. You know, the states with this homosexual marriage act and the doing away with DOMA, they have tried to get around some of this by saying they're going to pass laws for freedom of religious liberties, like if Christians would refuse to provide a service to the gay community that went against their religious beliefs, they couldn't be prosecuted. Well, the federal government is knocking each and every state down, and they don't care that it's been put on the ballot and the people have voted for it. Our opinion doesn't matter anymore. It's the government. So anyway, let's get back to this. The hearing enforcing the president's constitutional duty to faithfully execute the laws focused on the multiple areas that he has bypassed Congress, ranging from health care and immigration to marriage and welfare rules. Jonathan Turley Shapiro, professor of public interest law at George Washington University, testified that the expansion of executive power is happening so fast that America is at a constitutional tipping point. His view is that he has in fact exceeded his authority in a way that is creating a destabilizing influence in a three-branch system. He wants to emphasize that the problem didn't begin with Obama, but he was critical of Bush as well. This is so very true. We're at a very critical tipping point in America. We really are. Our Constitution has basically been ripped to shreds. Our opinion doesn't matter anymore. Our founding fathers put in this three-branch system to protect us from just the things that are happening right now today. He said what also alarms him is that the two other branches appear not just simply passive, but inert in the face of this concentration of authority. Congress is dead in the water. It has been for quite a while. They refuse to go against the president. Boehner has been effectively just taken down. He said that this guy does agree with some of Obama's policies, but what he doesn't agree with is the way he's going about it. Situations like this, he says, these benevolent suspensions, as they get more and more frequent and more aggressive, they're eroding our citizens' respect for the rule of law. We are a country of law and not men. It's going to render Congress superfluous, and I think it already has. Like I said, I just kind of wanted to go over this a little bit to show you where our country is, because a lot of the stuff that's going on in the headlines today ties into this. This next article is from The Guardian. North Korea fired 4 short-range missiles, and I think that this is very significant. America is not viewed anymore as a power to be reckoned with. We're viewed as very weak and insignificant, and North Korea takes every advantage they can to fire missiles. Evidently, they fired these missiles into the sea. North Korea has test-fired 4 short-range missiles into the sea, Seoul's defense ministry said in an apparent show of force to coincide with the South's joint military exercises with the U.S. This all by itself wouldn't be very significant because I know that we're all growing very weary of North Korea, the way they treat their people. They starve them to death, they abuse them, and their constant threats on the United States with their missile system. We know they have a nuclear weapon. We know they've been helping Iran. We know that they've tested nuclear weapons for Iran. But as I said, this ties in with everything else. It's like the world minus the West is playing this huge chess game, and the pieces are in place now for the final move, which is checkmate. And these threats continue to get worse and worse, and it's going to culminate pretty soon, and it's not going to be pretty. This next article is from the Telegraph, and evidently we know that there are troops from Russia amassing around Ukraine, and it looks to us like, anyway, Russia is attempting to put boots on the ground and go into Ukraine to stop the violence. The U.S. warned Moscow to be very careful in its judgments after Putin put armed forces in western Russia on alert as tensions mounted in the pro-Russian Crimea over the overthrow of Moscow ally Viktor Yanukovych by pro-European protesters. John Kerry, the U.S. Secretary of State, raised the specter of an East-West standoff as he insisted the U.S. and Russia need not get into an old Cold War confrontation over the country. He called on the Kremlin to keep its word over the unity of Ukraine. I don't feel like we're in a position to be telling Russia anything to do. I mean, Russia is controlling Syria. Russia has put warships in the Mediterranean for the first time, and I just don't know. NATO has also turned up the pressure on Russia, saying it would continue to support Ukrainian sovereignty and independence, territorial integrity. So I just wanted to show you this because I wanted you to see that things are heating up on every front on the globe. Putin has ordered testing of the military. You know, it's just not looking very good. Now that the Olympics are over, things could get very heated, very ugly, and very quickly. Here's another article from Israel National News. Kerry warns Russia as troops head for the border. He tells them that intervention in Ukraine would be a grave mistake. Russia's defense ministry announced Thursday morning that warplanes will be put on alert on the Ukrainian border. The announcement followed orders Wednesday for 150,000 Russian troops to go on high alert. Troops are planning to hold war games near Ukraine in what has widely been seen as a warning gesture from Russia over the ouster of Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych. Now, I might also add that the other day this President Yanukovych went missing. Well, he's turned up in Russia, and he's sending a stark message to the protesters that he is still the president there, that is his territory, and he's warning them. He evidently feels like he has Russia behind him, so he's issuing a warning also. Okay, this next article says, it's from the Daily Mail, and it is, why has Russia sent a spy ship to Cuba? Mystery surrounds a vessel that arrived in Havana with no explanation as U.S. warns Moscow over war games in Ukraine. Here again we find the chess game with the chess pieces being moved into place. I find this odd. I know Russia visits Cuba. They've done that in the past, but right now, with a warship that carries anti-air missiles and some other things, and a spy capability, I think that's very strange. A Russian spy ship docked in Havana on Wednesday, and neither Cuba nor Russia offered any mention or explanation of the mysterious visit that is reminiscent of the Cold War. We keep hearing that again, Cold War. The intelligence vessel bristles with electronic eavesdropping equipment and weaponry, including AK-630 rapid-fire cannons and surface-to-air missiles. I know if you're my age, you remember the Cold War. You remember what happened. You remember how President Kennedy has been said to have had his finger on the button for the nuclear weapons to attack Cuba and Russia. We had drills in school where we had to get down under our desk and cover our heads. Like that would really help in a nuclear weapon, but that's all we had to do. We had bomb shelters all over the city with these yellow triangles, and we were taught in school to know where these bomb shelters were, and if we saw a civil defense worker with a yellow or white hat, we should go up to them and ask them what to do. So this is very, very disturbing to me, and I do wonder also why Russia has their warship docked in Cuba. Like I said, it's part of this chess game. There are, remember now, we've got North Korea shooting off missiles, we have Russia docking at in Cuba, and we also have this from Iran. Iran sending warships close to the U.S. borders. This is the only thing I can find is from like the first part of February. It's like they just quit talking about this. They don't want to discuss it. Iran has sent warships close to our borders. We have no idea. At least they're not reporting where they are right now. And this, this is like a never before happened. So we have Russia on our coastline. We have Iran, who's got to be close now. We have China somewhere in the Pacific. They're still amassing their ships down there. So again, we find the chess game. And remember, the Persians invented chess. And we find the pieces moving into place for checkmate. There's been a lot of talk about an EMP attack. In fact, I just listened to an audio book of 1 second after, and it describes what happens to the country in an EMP attack, and it's not very pretty. I recommend reading that book. And if you'll remember, Congress, the U.S. House Committee for Civil Defense, they just did a report on what would happen during an EMP attack also. And then there's this. I'm sure you remember this video. CNN did a simulated program on cyber attack back a couple of years ago, and I'm just going to play just a couple minutes of it, and then I want to go on to something else.
This program is a simulated exercise. We want to welcome you to We Were Warned Cyber Shockwave. I'm Wolf Blitzer. What you're about to see is not real, but the threat is very real indeed. You're about to get an unprecedented look at how the U.S. government would deal with a massive cyber shockwave. The Bipartisan Policy Center has developed a cyber war game scenario. The center has brought together a bipartisan group of former administration and national security officials to play the role of cabinet members. Now,
CNN did this, and I thought it was very strange at the time, and they were concentrating on what would happen if there were cyber warfare and other things. I thought it was very strange. Okay, I just want to play a couple more seconds of this video, and then I'm going to show you why.
Welcome back to GNN's coverage of a developing story that is affecting millions of Americans. 2.5 months ago, a gaping security vulnerability in the operating systems of this nation's smartphones was exploited by the now infamous March Madness application, an application that was purchased and downloaded by over 5 million smartphone users. As viewers of this program certainly know, this resulted in the largest case of identity theft in history and the theft of tens of millions of dollars from the American public. Now, federal government and industry officials believe this same application is shutting down the nation's cellular phone network. Up to 20 million and counting of the nation's cell phones have stopped working so far today in what officials claim is the largest communications crisis.
Okay, they go on to explain this app. When you download it, it grabs a hold of your contact list, and from there the virus goes to every contact in your phone, and it does the same thing in their phone, and pretty soon it's spread over the whole nation. And it's taking personal information, and I thought that very strange because we've been seeing that lately. It's coming true. This is an article from the Daily Mail that says that smartphone use is on the decline, and it will continue to decline. But they say that there's upwards of, in North America, 200 million smartphones in active use, not to mention the number of feature phones still being used. They're trying to downplay this market. I don't know if it's because they realized that this has been used in the past. It was used in the Arab Spring, it was used in Egypt, it was used in Libya, and it's been used in other countries to have an easier access to social media where they can organize better. So I don't know why they say it's on the decline, but I just kind of wanted to show this to point out that there are more than 200 million smartphones in North America, and we know that they want to take down communications. We know that they want to control it. So I just think it kind of fits into, like I said, the scenario that CNN portrayed in that video and what's happening now. And EMP would take out America completely. It would take out every piece of communication equipment that we have. It would take out our power grid. And as the book 1 Second After points out, 80% of the country died within the first year. I think those are pretty amazing numbers, and I think they're pretty close to truth. I want to touch just a minute on this also. I mentioned briefly at the start about Obama and his gay agenda and the push for this in the world. Yesterday there was articles all over the place with the United States and the West push for Africa to be part of the gay community, and Uganda has told the West it can keep its aid after they criticize their anti-gay law. Now, I want to make one thing perfectly straight. I have always stood up for anyone who was persecuted, who was denied civil rights, and I've even stood up for some of the homosexuals at times in my life because they were downtrodden and picked on, and I don't like that. And I don't think that there needs to be a death sentence associated with this. I don't. That said, it is a sin, and I find it disturbing that my right to say it's a sin and it's not God's law is coming under attack in this country. So I just wanted to point out that their push to force the rest of the world into this is not going very well. Uganda shrugged off Thursday foreign aid cuts and international criticism of its new anti-gay law, saying it could do without Western aid. The West can keep their aid to Uganda over homos. We shall still develop without it, government spokesman said in a message on Twitter. Now, another reason why I think that this is pertinent is they're going to apply sanctions and no aid to these countries who are speaking out against homosexual behavior and marriage. We have countries like Syria. We have countries like the Ukraine. We have countries like Iran and North Korea. They're killing people for a lot less, and I don't understand why they want to sanction these countries. Anyway, I don't want to get into a debate. Like I said, I just find it very disturbing that my rights as a Christian are coming under attack. Okay, I think that everything that's in the news today, even the news in America with the fights over religious freedom rights, that I think is meant to distract us, but everything else is coming together. You can read about prophecy, and you can almost read the headlines in Daniel chapter 7 and chapter 11, and also in Revelation. Times are dark, and they're going to get darker. We have to keep our eyes focused on Jesus. We have to keep our faith, and we have to be unafraid and unashamed to go into these times, because God is going to expect his people, the body of Christ, to stand up and be about his business. The harvest is ripe and the workers are few, and as Jesus said, we must work now while it is still day, because the night is coming and no man will be able to work. Just be a Berean, search the scripture and search the news, because the news media is trying to cover things, and they're trying to cover things up, and they're not exactly telling the truth. So just be aware, and in the meantime, stay prayed up, packed up, and ready to go.